Kapla, and welcome to another episode of Battle Battles, where as usual we're going to pit together two episodes of Star Trek randomly chosen last week or 2 weeks ago and discuss it and see which one comes out as the better episode. So I need somebody to talk to, I suppose, don't I? So let's beam in my good friend Kevin Scarf, all the way from the great country of Canada.
Hello, Joe Keegan over
Hello.
there in Scotlandia.
Scotlandia, yes. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Weather's good. Summer's going great. And things are happening. It's all good.
Cool. Because weather here is kind of terrible for
Is
summer.
it?
Yeah, it rains all the time and it's very cloudy. And we get like an hour of sunshine a week or something.
That's normal for Scotland, though, isn't it?
Well, the last couple of years has been quite nice. And then it's just not this year. I'm quite disappointed. So, but it's fine. We can't really complain, although we do because we're Scottish. We complain about the weather all the time. So we have to know that this is the second week where we've not had a third person to talk to.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's our timing or our, I don't know. I did shower this morning, so it's not my smell.
I also showered twice today because I've been to the gym, so it can't be the body odor. But yeah, do you know what? We'll put a shout out to our listeners. If anybody wants to come in and join us and talk about two randomly chosen Star Trek episodes, you'd be absolutely more than welcome. Because it's just there's only so many opinions Kevin and I can have.
This is true.
So
this is true.
But yeah. Will we check the communication array? Do Klingons have communication arrays?
Well, they've got to be hailed somehow.
I suppose they will do. Oh, yeah,
that works.
It does. And do you know what? It works so well that we've actually got some feedback.
We do!
For the first time. This is episode 8 and we've got some feedback. Kevin, do you want to give us the feedback?
Sure. It's from Mary Scherger via the BQN Collective on Facebook. And she said, great podcast. I'm always excited to do my rewatches. I do miss Amy and Rhea. Well, you can't have everything.
Yeah.
So she voted for Suddenly Human in this in the poll, and one of her main reasons is her love for another show, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, in which Chad Allen was great on. I did enjoy seeing the fish out of water and Captain Picard being a father figure. The ice cream all over Wesley scene is a classic. She says, I also know of 2 other actors from Dr. Quinn being in Trek. Helene Udy, who played Quark's love interest in a Deep Space Nine episode, and Georgianne Johnson, a vice admiral in The Emissary, TNG episode. Lately, I've tried watching Enterprise, but honestly, it just can't compare to The Next Generation. You are all great, and I love listening.
Thank you, Mary. That's so kind to be.
Yeah.
Your comments. We did have a discussion as to how to pronounce your surname. We couldn't decide on Sherger or Sherger, so please give us more feedback and let us know how to pronounce your surname.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'll get to discussing the ins and outs of both of these episodes. I did have some issues with some of the things that Mary said. Not Mary saying them, but some of the things that she's mentioned that were in the episodes. So, but we'll discuss them very, very, very shortly.
Agreed.
Thank you. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about today, yeah?
Sounds good. That was a close call.
I know, decloaked right above my head. How unusual. So we've got 2 episodes to talk about today. We have got Enterprise Season 1, Episode 11, which is Cold Front. And we've got TNG Season 4, Episode 4, Suddenly Human. Yeah. Shall we talk about Cold Front first?
Sure, let's talk about Cold Front first.
And which one do you want to give us a synopsis on? I'll do the other one.
I'd rather do Suddenly Human.
Well, I do Cold Front then.
Please do Cold Front.
Okay, cool. So Cold Front is I find it kind of a weird episode. I'll tell you what happens. So the Enterprise is near some kind of weird thing in space, like a nebula, some kind of, it's not an anomaly, it's just a
stellar nursery, they called it.
Sure, it's something in space that we visit from time to time, and something periodic is going to happen. Doesn't happen all the time. Once every 11 billion years. There's a plume that's called a special name, and pilgrims, not pilgrimagers, pilgrims from different species go and visit this and say prayers and stuff. So the Enterprise meets this other ship that's transporting pilgrims, and the captain, weirdly played by Von Armstrong, he is a bit curmudgeonly. It doesn't really care what the Enterprise is doing there, even though the Enterprise just wants to go out and meet new people and kind of have new experiences and stuff. So the Enterprise is more than happy to bring aboard the pilgrims and learn about them. Phlox is very excited to meet new people and have new experiences, as we learn from Phlox, during his run on it, Enterprise. And the pilgrims come on, they get a tour of the ship, and while they're in engineering, one of them breaks off from the party and damages the warp core in some way. He has this very flexible arm and puts it up inside the thing and pulls out a hose. And then both ships are flying and they're trying to avoid some kind of storm in space near this space anomaly thing. And they get hit by some kind of lightning. I can't remember its name. Some kind of lightning. It's something bolt of lightning. And it's starting a cascade reaction. It's going to blow up the ship. And before it gets to the warp drive, it stops. And it's only stopped because this guy pulled out this hose. Right, okay, so turns out this guy is Silik, the Solaban, Archer, and the Enterprise's nemesis. And the guy that brings Archer his food in the morning is called Daniels. Turns out Daniels is a temporal agent, and he tells Archer about the temporal Cold War, and he's from Illinois, 900 years in the future, and he's here to stop Silik the Solaban, but Silik the Solaban has just saved the Enterprise, and then Silik escapes, jumping out the ship, flying through space, and into another wee Solaban ship. And I think that's kind of it.
Well, then Silik does shoot and apparently kill Daniels.
Daniels gets blown up into chunks that vanish.
And then Daniels' unnamed roommate gets assigned to another quarter.
Yeah, and they put a big fancy padlock on Daniels' quarters because they're not entirely sure what other technology might be in there. Because Daniels, being a temporal agent, has all sorts of fangled technology, including like a weird thing that turns the room into a holodeck and a wee hand device that allows you to walk through walls. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, who do we have in this episode? Let's talk about some of the characters. So we've mentioned Agent Daniels. We've mentioned Silik. There's the captain guy. The captain, not Archer. The other captain guy, whose name, the curmudgeonly one.
Yes, it started with an F, didn't it?
I can't remember his name, but he's known as the Cretacean captain. He's played by Von Armstrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a huge role. He's basically a taxi driver for the Pilgrims.
Yes. Fraddick. His name was Fraddick. Yeah.
Fraddick. Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Von Armstrong's been in like every Star Trek almost, doesn't he?
Yeah, he becomes more vital as an admiral or something on this show later. Doesn't he play an admiral?
Does he? I think, yes. Yeah, he plays. Yeah, I'm sure he does.
I could be wrong.
No, I think you may be right. I think up there with who was the guy that played. Now I've forgotten his name. Jeffrey Combs. He's up there with Jeffrey Combs for playing the most characters across Star Trek.
I
Although
think so,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Combs is like the definitive number one for most roles played. Who else do we have? We have Crewman Daniels, who is Matt Winston. Interestingly, I was looking at what he was known for on IMDb. He was in Little Miss Sunshine, which I've seen. He's in Fight Club, which I've seen. And he had recurring roles in Scrubs and 6 Feet Under. And I've seen those.
And he was in Galaxy Quest.
Was he in Galaxy Quest as well?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Yeah, he was one of the aliens in Galaxy Quest.
Seen that? Because it's weird when we talk about these episodes and who's in them. I have rarely heard of some of the American TV shows that are mentioned that these people have been on. But it's interesting that these are all things that I've seen. So
Yeah.
that's cool. John Fleck plays Silek. And he's been in a bunch of Star Trek. He was in Carnivale, which was about like carnival folk.
Yeah, and it had a sort of supernatural kind of.
Yeah. It was a bit like American Horror Story, Freak Show, that kind of idea. It's weirdness going on in the circus. And he was also played recurring roles in Babylon 5, which I did not know. Because I'm a huge Babylon 5 fan.
Yeah, and I'm not sure who he played on Babylon 5.
I mean, either way. Listeners, if you know, let us know. Then we have a few of the aliens. We've got... Was Rostov one of the aliens? Sounds that might be a bit of an alien, but also sounds a bit Russian.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Played by Joseph Will. From NYPD Blue, Criminal Minds, The Mentalist. Oh no, he was a crewman on the Enterprise, Crewman Rostov. He wasn't an alien. And then Thad was played by Stephen Dennis. I'm assuming Thad is an alien, but he's been in Voyager also. So
lots of people.
That's our cast. Yeah, a few people in addition to our normal regular crew members. All of whom are in it.
Yes.
Little bits.
Even Hoshi and Mayweather got a scene this time.
The Edge talking about, have you always wanted to sit on the captain's chair just to try it out? Because two very junior officers are left in charge of the bridge. There's two people for the whole bridge, looking after the whole entire ship, while everybody's gallivanting about.
Yeah.
You'd think, now I'm thinking TNG, if you step off the bridge, magically somebody appears from a cupboard and sits at your station just to take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just waiting. But that appears not to happen on the NX-01.
Right. And nobody has to sit in the captain's seat on the NX-01 either, because even when Reed is there and is in charge, he's not sitting in the captain's seat either.
No. Interesting. I suppose wouldn't you just stay at your own station? Because it's all configured for the way you like it.
Somebody's got to do that job anyway, so...
Yeah, and it's a starship, so it's all going to be all networked. So if you need access to captain stuff, you can get it from your station as well.
I thought it was interesting that Mayweather's crack was, do you think anybody would notice if I fired a torpedo? Like, yeah, I think they would.
To be honest, that's one of the things I'd want to do. I'd want to fire all the weapons. Pew, pew, pew. Shoot out some asteroids. Yeah, that would be cool. But wouldn't you want to just fire all the weapons if you had a spaceship?
I'd probably want to, but I don't know if I would say it out loud.
No, true. I suppose anytime I'm playing like a space sim fighter game, yeah, first thing you do is fire the weapons.
Gotta make sure you know how they work.
Yeah, pew pew, it's good. But if you've been in Starfleet for a few years, you're probably trained not to want to do that.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't pick you for Starfleet.
Probably
for
not.
The flagship. If you just wanted to fire the pew pews. Interesting. I always find it weird that the Vulcan Science Academy or Institute has basically said time travel is not a thing. It doesn't exist. No evidence for it. In all the hundreds of years that the Vulcans have been doing space travel, hundreds and hundreds of years, multiple
Yeah.
hundreds. They've never come across any temporal anomalies, never accidentally slingshot themselves around a sun, or gone through a time traveling wormhole,
Yeah.
or an experiment with
Found-
tachyons has gone wrong, or something.
They didn't know about the Guardian of Forever.
No,
Yeah.
nothing like that. When, if you're on a Federation starship, this kind of thing happens bi-weekly.
Yeah. In the original series, there were even routine, regular time missions to go back and spy on what was going on in the 1960s.
I know. So I'm not sure because what's her name?
T'Pol.
T'Pol is just very indignant. Like, no, this doesn't exist. You guys are just crazy. Why are you listening to this crewman Daniels? He's obviously just a bit insane. Because the Vulcans say no. I think the Vulcans have a track record for just being a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Through Enterprise. So, and then the other thing that I thought was kind of weird, when just after Daniels comes out to Archer, he's in engineering, working with T'Pol and
Trip.
Yes, I get them all mixed up all the time.
So many people.
Yes, so many people. And Trip says to him, I suppose you don't have a brother called David or whatever. I suppose you're not from Illinois. And he's like, no, I'm from Illinois. Yada, yada, yada. And he's from 900 years in the future. And he says, I'm from Earth, but it depends how you define Earth.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm unsure what that means.
Well,
Earth still exists.
Yeah, I think that's been retconned because the Earth is still there in the 32nd century. We know that now.
Yes,
it quit the Federation, but came back.
still Earth. It's not undergoing a name change.
No,
like Vulcan has.
No,
32nd century, which is strange. I would maybe have felt more comfortable if they had acknowledged that in some way in Discovery. So I agreed with itself.
Right.
But I did go down. I did double check the timelines. So 900 years in the future puts you early 3000s.
The 3000s.
Yeah. So if Enterprise is like the 2150s, that's 900 years in the future.
Yeah.
You're looking at 3050.
Yeah.
And Discovery season 3 onwards is
the 32nd century, isn't it?
So it's like 31 something. So Daniels is from either just pre-burn or burn times.
Right. Which, of course, didn't exist when they created when Enterprise was around. So,
exactly.
So confusing.
It's tiny-limey stuff. We're not supposed to understand it fully. Okay, so that's the episode Cold Front. How do we feel about its importance to canon?
Well, this whole temporal Cold War storyline really gets kicked up a notch here. Was this the first time that it had been talked about publicly? We knew about the shadowy guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this was like
Archer does mention that some Suliban previously told him about the temporal Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
So he recognized the phrase when Daniels mentioned it to him.
Right.
So I'm thinking, it's been a while since I've done an Enterprise rewatch, but I'm thinking that maybe we've heard of the temporal Cold War in previous episodes. And this is still early on.
Yeah.
So
this is only episode 10, right? So
11.
The first episode is 2, so
yeah, okay, so 10, 11.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's very early in Enterprise to begin with, but it's also very early in the story of the temporal Cold War, which I don't think I watched the end of Enterprise, so I don't know if that storyline ever got wrapped up. Did it ever end, the temporal Cold War? Because it felt like we got
I'm I'm not sure. I
Enterprise went through these sort of sequences, right? We had the Suliban first, and the temporal Cold War, and then we had the Zindi storyline, and then the post,
post
uh,
Zindy,
post
racist Mars breaking away. Yeah.
right. So, I, while it's important because it sets up this Cold War, I don't know if we ever really get any resolution to it.
No, the Cold War's just something fantastical away in the distant future. And why should it really affect what's happening in the 2150s?
Yeah.
I know, I think it's the idea that the enemies of the Federation are trying to kind of kibosh the formation of the Federation,
Right.
which is what Enterprise is ultimately seeking to do.
And I get, I guess the producers of the show put this storyline in because we've been used to having the 24th century series, and they thought if we put a show 200 years, set a show 200 years before that, then people aren't going to be as interested.
Mm.
So let's add this far future storyline so that there's something there for people who want to know what comes next and not just what came before.
Yeah, because
But
that's a common complaint, isn't it?
yeah,
We do. People complained about Strange New Worlds. They complained about Discovery. People wanted to see post Voyager what was
yeah.
happening,
But
which isn't really a complaint. It's just people moaning.
yeah, exactly. I think maybe Enterprise had too many things going on at the beginning, and I don't know. Again, I'm just confused by the whole thing.
I think I'm with you. I think there's an element of canon that I don't think we visit it again. Really, there's something canon in the fact there was a temporal Cold War, but it's never really extrapolated on. We never really delved deep. It's just this kind of murky thing in the distant future that we don't really know.
So Memory Alpha says that this was the second of 13 episodes in the temporal Cold War storyline.
Okay.
But I'm trying to see if there's a list of the episodes here. Where is it? Because there's also we end up with the okay. So Broken Bow, it gets mentioned in the pilot, and then Cold Front. They end up going back in time to an alternate World War II at some point because of it.
With aliens with red eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are 13 episodes here. So I wish that like I say, I don't think the storyline ever got wrapped up. And and then the storyline gets dropped in. I mean, Enterprise is the last new Star Trek for 12 years, right? And then Discovery wasn't going to pick up that plot line. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We get one more reference to it though in the end of Discovery, where we discover that this is a spoiler for people who haven't watched the end of Discovery. We discover that
David Cronenberg's character.
Cronenberg is Daniels.
Yeah,
Kovich, right. That Kovich is actually Daniels.
Which makes absolutely no sense. That seemed to me an Easter egg for the point of an Easter egg. It served no purpose.
No.
But hey, we're not here to talk about Discovery. I suppose that's the only thing that links it to canon. We see Daniels again in the future, even though Daniels was killed in 2150, something that exploded into big blue chunks that promptly vanished.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because Daniels does come back. We see him again on Enterprise, so he is around.
Yeah.
Um,
I suppose if you're doing a lot of time traveling, then there's going to be a version of you existing in other times,
yeah.
able to travel. I was going to say something about the whole temporal Cold War thing. If I were to list famous and notable wars from the Star Trek universe, the temporal Cold War probably wouldn't rank. I'm thinking Romulan War, Dominion War, the Klingon War, all of them. The Borg incursion of 2372. I mean,
Right.
those kind of big events. But Temporal Cold War just doesn't really mean anything to me.
No,
I don't really know
because
what it was.
we only see fringes, little bits of it, right? So
Yeah.
we don't know.
And I think, is that maybe purposeful? Because it's a Cold War. It's not
Right.
a big bad guys, good guys, loads of ships, pew pew, bang bang. It's supposed to be about market. It's a Cold War. It's a bit like Russia, America.
Right.
Everybody, nothing was happening. There's lots of spying going on. People were a bit nervous that the other side was going to launch nuclear missiles at the other. So, yeah, with the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it's a war in the name of like they're trying not to be overt with it. Like I guess that's a Cold War is sort of a simmering undercurrent of culture that's not really battles.
A hot war would be bat missiles and bullets and phasers and people dying.
Right.
Yeah.
I just feel like the whole thing was never really explained properly.
Never really fleshed out. I get it. I'm assuming, listeners, that it's been fleshed out in many books, potentially, but I'm not. I don't like Star Trek books. Not that I don't like them. I prefer other books. Is what I'll say to that. Okay, I think we've covered canon.
I think so too.
There's elements of canon and its importance. However, it doesn't go far enough to be truly important.
Right.
I think is maybe what we're saying.
Agreed.
Cool. What about its trickiness?
Well, the for this, I always think about what does this episode have a message or a moral or a something it's trying to teach us, and I'm a little bit on the fence here because Archer really just takes Daniels at face value. Like there's nothing Daniels has done that proves anything really, because Silic is the one who saved the ship, but Daniels is saying we've got to stop Silic. Like, who do you believe? The guy who's actually saved your ship or the guy who looks more like you? Like that's my little hang up here.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the purpose of like Silic saving the ship. If he was trying to destroy, I'm not clear. I watched the episode this morning, and I'm not clear on.
Agreed.
Who was why Silic saved the ship, but then he was trying to damage the ship, and he was trying to escape.
Yeah.
Did he need to save the ship because in the future? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either, and I it's a little muddy. So and so I don't know if there is anything here that says to me there's a great moral in this episode.
No,
I
like Phlox is the trickiest thing about this episode.
With his open mind and his
yes,
I want to experience everything kind of attitude.
I thought, I wish that was me. I think I'm quite open to meeting new cultures, but see when he says, or he goes over to the ship and he has, I don't know, a day of prayers and meditation and kind of healing, and I was like, that just sounds really dull. Like 4 hours of prayers. Spiritual healing. I was like,
okay. And the fact that he memorized that alien language so quickly too, I
think that's just that's just the nature of Phlox.
Mm,
He's like I don't know, he's the better version of ourselves, isn't he?
I guess so.
I think he's the version of humans that we are ultimately trying to be
Yeah.
in the 2150s.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess so.
Yeah.
He's
And he has
interesting.
many wives and husbands and sort of stuff. Okay, so a little bit Trekkie.
A little bit tricky, but
Trekkie. There's a bit of suspense going on, isn't there, with this temporal Cold War? But I suppose for me, when I like Star Trek, it's when there's something to fix. There's a problem that needs solved, and for me,
right.
this kind of lacks a problem.
Right.
Apart from the fact there's two guys aboard the ship, and we don't really know who to believe. One says one thing, one says another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So a little bit moderate on the Trekkiness scale.
Yeah, I'm sort of middling on this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Cold Front?
At least in this episode, everybody got something to do. Everybody got a scene. That always makes me happy. I hate when people get left out, especially on this show.
Hmm.
But this episode also really shows how I think they were trying to get back to like original series where we're going to have a big three on this show, and that the triangle of Archer, Trip, and T'Pol is going to be your main. They're going to be your top story influence in every episode because we're trying to recreate the Kirk, Spock, McCoy dynamic. And we're going to try to do it with Archer, Trip, and T'Pol.
Yeah, because you've got elements of that, haven't you? You've got the science officer in T'Pol, so it's the Spock who's also Vulcan. You've got that kind of best friend being McCoy,
and the good old Southern boy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think none of that was not intentional.
No, I think that was very, very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And we were setting it up like it to be less of an ensemble and more of a big three and the rest kind of.
Yeah. Let's throw them the scraps of story meat. Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about Hoshi every now and then.
Yeah. Can I sit on the big chair and fire a torpedo? Sure. Okay, let's move on to Suddenly Human.
Suddenly Human.
Suddenly Human.
I knew you were going to do that.
Sorry.
It's good. There was no giant man-eating plant in this episode, though, which is fine. So what happens in Suddenly Human? Suddenly Human, the Enterprise D in this case, is flying along, and it gets a distress call from a Talarian observation craft.
Oh.
And there are it's badly damaged, and Troy says, I think that they're not going to survive much longer, so they send a team over, and the ship is crewed by teenagers, all these young peoples, and so they beam them all back to the Enterprise to discover that one is actually not a Talarian at all. He's a human. A human. But he's a human who's been raised by Talarians, and he calls himself Jono. And he's actually the son of a major captain, a Talarian captain. So they try to assimilate Jono back into humanity. Jono, stop that! Stop that! It's my best Captain Picard. Yeah. So Jono keeps doing his Talarian things. He listens to his loud Talarian rock music and his screaming. And Picard puts a stop to it because he wants him to basically become a human again, because they discover that Jono was actually the grandson of an admiral. His entire colony had been killed. His parents were killed. They assumed he was dead too. And his grandmother, who was an admiral in Starfleet, would like him back. Jono, though, just only really knows his Talarian family and wants to stay with them. Again, they keep trying to assimilate him. Wesley Crusher shows him all about banana splits and ends up with ice cream all over himself. And in the end, against the wishes of the Admiral, they send the boy back to live with his Talarian family because that's what's going to make him happiest. The end.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I have some problems with this episode and that assimilation of Jono.
Really? Okay. Lay it on me.
So just the ice cream scene. It feels really vanilla, yeah. But there's a sinister undertone for me in that they are trying to like force all the good happy stuff on him to see how great it is to be human. And they're not really taking into account anything about his what is he, 5 when he gets taken by the Talarians?
Very young, yeah.
What, 14, 15 now?
Yeah.
Although he looks more like 16, 17. Yeah, that's kind of problematic for me. I don't like the way that's done, which made me feel uncomfortable throughout the whole episode until Captain Picard realizes that they've made that mistake and they shouldn't have been doing that, which is the episode's saving grace for me.
The one thing, though, is that they also try to show the Talarian culture as being sexist and very sort of violent. So they don't put the Talarian culture in a great light. You know, there's a lot of screaming and loud music and not listening to women because they're inferior. But you know, so that sort of rubs me wrong a little bit too, right? That they're trying to show his upbringing has been bad when obviously, I mean, he's okay, despite the markings of a bone fracture from when he was young.
Which are all, for any child, that's going to be hugely explainable, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't. I think some of the most interesting things about this episode are Captain Picard's reluctance to deal with children, and how he sort of comes around to the boy. I think the Jono is well acted by Chad Allen. I think I thought he did a great job. I liked his costume too, that sort of leathery armor.
Yeah, like cushiony.
Yeah. So I think this episode has some good things in it. I wouldn't say this is a top line one of the best episodes of Next Generation. You know, in 178 episodes of the show, you're going to have some that are great, some that are terrible, and then a lot that are just sort of we need an episode, so this is the story of the week. And this feels like a story of the week to me.
Absolutely. Although it does have kind of some thought-provoking ideas in it.
Oh, sure. The TNG writers were on fire at this point. I mean, this came right after Best of Both Worlds, right? And family and brothers, right? So we had this sort of theme of family had been running through the beginning of season 4, and then
we got followed by Remember Me directly after this,
right?
So that whole family thing is very strong in this season 4.
Yeah, and so this is as opposed to being a story about one of our main crew's family. This is a story about a new family and families that get broken and divided, and I think looking at it that way, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I don't believe that this is the first time that this will have happened. There's a border skirmish somewhere in the Federation, and a child is taken. So they have to have dealt with this kind of thing before.
You would think.
Yeah, but it feels like it's never happened before, and they're just kind of winging it, I suppose, about how to deal with Joe. They just definitively, Jonah's human. Jonah's coming home with us, even though he spent the vast majority of his life been brought up and loved, as far as we know, by aliens. So
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
yeah. Who else do we have in this episode? You mentioned Chad Allen. Chad, I didn't know how famous Chad Allen was.
Oh, he was on a lot of shows in the 90s. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman,
Mm-hmm.
being the big one. He was also on, was it Our House?
Yeah, Our House. Played David Witherspoon in Our House.
Yes.
Just after TNG 1986 to 1988.
That was like a family drama.
Oh, okay. Another one I've not heard of. Our House, I just think Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Madness.
Yeah.
And he was also in St. Elsewhere and My Two Dads. Yeah. He doesn't act, he's a retired actor now. He is, according to Google, a psychologist, psychotherapist, something like that. Yeah. He's a big LGBTQ advocate as well.
He you know, I was mixing him up with somebody else because there were a lot of these sort of teen actors at the time, and I was thinking of, who was the young actor who was on Sequest? Because I think he killed himself. I was thinking Chad Allen was dead, but he's not. He's still living. Yeah. He's only 50 years old now.
The Sequest guy. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The guy that the Super G, the Wesley Crusher of Sequest DSV.
Yeah, that guy. That's who I was getting him mixed up with.
Yes, speaks to Darwin the dolphin because the dolphins can speak. Yeah, they've got a similar visual aesthetic, haven't they?
Because I knew that's who I was getting him mixed up with.
Ah, that's interesting. They're very similar.
Jonathan Brandis.
Cool.
Was that
who committed suicide?
Yes,
that's right. Okay, so that's Chad Allen. Ender is played by Sherman Howard, who was Bob in Day of the Dead. It was on Seinfeld, and the animated series of Batman, as the voice of Derek Powers and the Blight. Guest roles on the X-Files, Deep Space Nine, and ER.
Oh, and you know where else I've seen him? He there was around the same time as Next Gen, there was a syndicated Superboy TV show, which I'm in the process of rewatching because of my giant nerd list. And he played Lex Luthor on Superboy.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That's cool. Interestingly, that we mentioned X-Files, I am watching X-Files for the first time.
Really?
So I've seen episodes like when it was on, because it was on at the same time as late TNG.
Yep.
And Deep Space Nine Voyager. Yeah.
Mid-90s, yeah.
So when I was at school / university, I was watching TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Babylon 5, then latterly Enterprise. My group of friends, some of them watched X-Files, and X-Files was never really my thing, strangely. I caught a few episodes here and there. It would be kind of on in the background.
Yeah.
So now that I'm watching it for all 70 seasons or whatever there is and 5 movies, it's really interesting because it's a who's who of Star Trek folk.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They were filmed in America, Canada area.
Yeah, the first 5 or 6 years was filmed in Vancouver, so you got a lot of Stargate people on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a group of friends. We used to get together. At first, it was every Friday night. It was on Friday nights. We used to get together every Friday to watch X-Files. And then it moved to Sundays, and I think we continued to get together on Sunday nights. There was like 6 of us. Yes. We'd get together at somebody's house every week to watch the X-Files.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Yeah, it's very Monster of the Week, though. It's in its old style seasons where there's like 25 episodes.
Yes. And everybody wanted to know the whole plot of the X-Files because there were some linking episodes, but I always found those were the more boring ones and that the Monster of the Week episodes were better.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of on the fence. The monster of the week, because I'm binging it, it's getting a bit tired when it's just
I
another
get that.
monster. And Scully almost always nearly dies, and then it's older, just at the
Yeah.
last second. But the whole that I want to believe thing, I'd love to believe that there was aliens visiting and they were just up
Mm.
there watching us, but I don't.
There's that show was creepy.
Mm.
It was very creepy. But
So
we've gotten way off on a tangent.
but that's
Let's
fine.
come back to
We were just about to
Suddenly
mention,
Human.
yeah, Barbara Townsend, who played Admiral Connaught Rosa.
Yes.
What an interesting Nate Connaught.
Yeah, that's an odd first name.
Yeah, like the writers thinking, oh, let's think of a woman's name for an admiral. And I'm like, I've never heard of that name. I've heard the name, but it's like as a surname, possibly.
Yeah, I've never heard of Connaught as a first name.
The variations in spelling, it's an Irish name, obviously given its spelling, and it means brave or wise, interestingly. So, yeah, the Admiral woman, Barbara Townsend, was in The Entity as Mrs. Cooley. I don't know it, 1982 movie. And she's in Dallas, Falcon Crest, and Knots Landing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like the holy trinity of rich people soap operas, isn't it?
Yep, pretty much.
That's cool. So that's Barbara Townsend.
Rider.
Say again?
She did Knight Rider.
That's shit I love about Knight Rider.
Highway to Heaven.
Mm.
St. Elsewhere. Northern Exposure. Quantum Leap.
So one of these people, it's like we've said before, if you're acting and you're relatively good and you're on one TV show that time, you're going to be on all of them eventually, aren't you?
Oh, her most notable role, probably, she played Mildred Potter on After MASH. Remember there was a show? So MASH ran for years and years, and then when that ended, there was a show called After MASH, which picked up the lives of several of the characters back in the States. So she played Colonel Potter's wife, Mildred.
Play on Aftermath. Yeah.
That show also starred Rosalind Chow, because she was Klinger's wife that he had married while they were in Korea.
Rosalind Chow from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Cool. So that's the guest cast.
Yeah.
I think maybe Chad Allen's the biggest guy.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, they're all working actors, hard-working actors, but Chad Allen's probably the best known.
Cool. Okay, what about then the importance to canon for this episode? We never hear the Talarians before, or again.
No.
Never heard of Jeremiah Rosa.
Nope.
That might have been a nice wee idea to pick up on. Where is he? What's he doing? Did he ever get to meet his grandmother? Connaught. Nope. So it's an episode of the week.
Yeah, exactly.
As you say, is there anything? We maybe get some of the history of that border skirmish between the Federation and the Talarians. How the data explains that they used to booby trap their ships and send out a distress call from them, and then have subspace proximity detonators that would blow up the rescuers and take out their enemy, essentially. But we never. It's the first time we've heard of that. We get subspace proximity mines, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And the Siege of AR-558 in Deep Space Nine randomly came to me. When you'd be running through the trenches and suddenly a mine will go off.
Yeah,
the tricorder can't detect. But that's really.
These are pretty minor, and we're really, that's grasping. There's really
nothing,
no continuity here.
Can I scrape the bottom of the barrel more?
Sure.
And Picard's dislike of children.
There's that.
We see that a few times. His discomfort with Wesley initially, then Captain Picard Day, and all that, all the events of, what was it, Disaster?
Yep.
When the quantum filament nearly destroyed the ship.
So there's sort of character beat continuity here,
Yeah.
but there's not really plot continuity.
No, nothing that significantly adds to the franchise, really. That's what we're seeing.
Except a decent story.
Yeah. Okay, and is it very Trekkie?
Oh yeah, I think this one is, because this one is all about exploring your heritage, and it's sort of the nature over nurture story. You know, like, should he be with his biological family because he's a human, or should he be with the people who've loved and cared for him for the last 10 years? I think that makes it pretty tricky.
Yeah, and I know I'm a fan of Star Trek episodes that maybe challenge your perceptions and make you think about things, and this one does, because it made me feel uncomfortable in the way they're treating them, and just assuming that, no, human, you go with the humans.
Right. But, you know, on the other hand, he was taken forcibly from his family originally.
Yes.
At a very young age, so I can see why they would want to do that.
Yeah,
but yeah.
But I like, as I said before, I like the fact that Captain Picard realizes they've got it wrong. Because a lot of the time in Star Trek, the Federation is just the arbiter of all the things that are good, and we decide we're the way. But this one, they got it wrong and threw their hands up and admitted it.
Because you get the impression that if he had been sent away to live with his grandmother, he would have just
dead.
He would have just kept trying to escape. Yeah.
Get in trouble. Yeah, exactly. Captain Picard nearly gets stabbed to death in this episode.
Yes, there is that.
Yeah, there is that. Although I know he's just woken up, but do you think Captain Picard could take a teenager?
Yeah.
He could probably fight his way out of that. But anyway, that happens, and Jono does that purely to be put to death, because one of the main Tellurian crimes is attacking your superiors.
Yeah, it sounds like that's it sounds like their whole society is sort of militarily based.
Yeah, a bit Klingon, like a bit monolithic, like that. Okay, so very tricky, because for me it makes me feel uncomfortable in the way the whole thing's going on, but then there's resolution brought at the end.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I'm right with you on this.
Okay, cool. So that kind of covers both of those episodes in moderate detail. I'm assuming our listeners, we have none. Nobody's listening. It's fine. They'll listen when we put it online, I'm assuming.
Of course they will.
They will no doubt have more to add to the conversation, so you'd be more than welcome to do that. However, we do the votes, the polls.
Yeah, let's take a look at the polls,
because it was really interesting. So I think the Facebook poll, I noticed today there was only one option on it.
What?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh.
Suddenly Human was the only option, so I added in Cold Front as an option.
Okay. Well, I apologize for that, because
no, it's fine, because like if somebody really wanted to vote for Cold Front, they could have just added in another option.
Right.
So, because you can do that on Facebook polls, add more details. But with that, on the Facebook poll, Suddenly Human got 3 votes, and Cold Front got 0 votes.
Okay.
And then on Discord, Cold Front got 4 votes, and Suddenly Human got 0 votes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, total swap. So it's basically 4 versus 3
Hmm.
to Coldfront with that vote.
Okay, so the listeners being vote number one, being vote number one in our little three-person vote here, voted for Coldfront.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, this is quite a difficult one. Normally, when they're 2 really good episodes, you pick some. You just have to pick like an aspect of one of them that you prefer. Right, which one would you randomly choose to watch again? And these are just 2 middle of the road episodes. They're not terrible. They're not amazing. They're just 2 episodes that we got to fill in a season. So for me, it's like I say, going to come down to which one would I probably watch again, and I think it's going to be Suddenly Human, just because I'm a TNG person at heart, really, and I think it has to be Suddenly Human.
I'm sort of right with you. Like when the episodes are close, it comes down to which one would I rather watch again? What if I'm going to sit down and put on an episode, would I rather watch A or B? And in this case, I think the episodes are quite close because neither of them are great episodes. They are fine. They are middle of the road, perfectly acceptable Star Trek episodes. But if you ask me which one I'd rather watch again right now, it would also be Suddenly Human. I think the story is clearer in Suddenly Human, and I think Coldfront is setting up a lot of things, so there's not a lot of payoff yet in Coldfront. So I think because we're getting a whole story, Suddenly Human's gonna take it for me as well.
Yeah, it's a nice little neatly tied up package. Okay, yeah. So 2 votes to Suddenly Human, and the listeners scrapingly voted for Coldfront. That's fine. So it looks like Suddenly Human continues on. Yeah,
it does. Suddenly Human goes on to the next round if we ever get to that round, which probably won't happen.
We won't. We'll both be long dead. Coldfront is going to be launched in a torpedo tube through a temporal anomaly 500,000 years in the future.
Excellent.
So there we go.
So
let's do it. Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin, let's do it.
Is it time?
Yeah, it's that time. Yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
We're going to do the randomizer.
Ooh. Does that mean time?
Yeah, that's it. The Klingon guy says, Kevin, do the randomizer to choose next episodes.
There it is. Isn't it pretty?
Beautiful.
Ready? Here we go. We're spinning. Oh, it's spinning hard. And it's coming up with The Changeling from the original series.
The Changeling, okay.
Okay, so that's one. The next one is... Ooh, look at that galaxy spin. And it's coming up with... Penumbra from DS9.
That's quite late on, isn't it? Season 7-ish, maybe?
Is it? I'm very excited.
Season 5, 6, or 7. Can't remember.
Perfect.
Penumbra. How do you spell Penumbra?
Penumbra.
Yeah, it's late on season 7.
Ooh.
Season 7, episode 17, and The Changeling, season 2, episode 3 from the original series.
You know, being part of that very dense war arc on DS9 could
Yes.
work against Penumbra
Uh-huh.
because those episodes are so tightly entwined. But we'll see,
But
because I
also
can't tell you the plot.
it's difficult for us, yeah, because like me, I'm really familiar with that whole Dominion War arc,
Right.
and so I kind of know the ins and outs and details of what happens. So it'll be difficult to judge Penumbra solely on Penumbra
Right.
and not go, oh yeah, I know what happens in the next few episodes and the few episodes preceding it.
Right.
That'll be a bit of a challenge as well. The Changeling, I don't really know what that one's about. Is that the one with? That's not the one with the prodigy alien, the Medusan. Is it?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Wait 1 second. The Changeling. That is. The Enterprise finds an ancient interstellar probe from Earth missing for 265 years, which is somehow mutated into a powerful and intelligent machine, sterilizing entire populations that do not meet its standards of perfection.
So that's one with Nomad.
It is. It's Nomad.
Interesting. I'm vaguely familiar with the episode, but I will have to rewatch.
It's sort of a precursor to the motion picture.
Yeah.
Similar plot.
Very similar plot, now that I think of it. Very good.
That
was a fun wee episode.
Pardon me?
I'm just saying that was a fun wee discussion. Yeah.
It was. And you know, I think it'd be good if next time somebody joins us for this fun family discussion. Yes. It's always nice to have extra voices.
Kevin and I will get bored talking to each other.
Oh, never. Never. I love talking to you, Joe. You know that.
Maybe we'll get bored of each other during round 3. To skeletons.
So let's go on, and we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and we hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there, or you can follow the network on Instagram at BQN Podcasts, or you can join us on our Discord server where the Bat Left Battle polls will always be posted. We have basically the BQN network has removed itself from Twitter. The Lord and Master of the network, Amy Nelson, put out a great message about why we've done that. So don't look for us on that platform any longer. So Joe, where can people find you when you are listening to Talarian folk music?
That was folk music?
I believe so.
Yes.
It was cultural.
Yeah, the lighter end of the folk spectrum. When I'm not doing that, you can find me on the BQN Collective on Facebook. You can get me on Instagram at JoyJo77UK. I'm still on Twitter, but don't use it. But we're not on Twitter anymore, so let's not use that. You can email me, joepodcast@gmail.com, and I will find your email amongst the millions of spam I get every day on that account. And I think that's it, really. You can just Discord, send me a message. Yeah, get me there, get me anywhere. Email me, write to me, turn up at my house, say hello, I'll make you a cup of tea.
I can send you his address if you like.
Yes, I'm not going to broadcast it, because I'll have randoms turning up at my house. And Kevin, where can people find you when you're not attempting to murder your boss at the Flag Factory?
Oh, I don't feel like doing that very often. Not very often. But if I am not doing that, you can find me on the BQN Collective. I post the polls there. You can find me in the Discord. I will respond if you message me there. You can find me on True North Nerds, which is a podcast that I do with some of my nerd friends here locally. We're going to be recording another episode of that later today. So you can find me there. I'm sure we'll find something interesting to talk about. So that's about it. If you're watching this live, which I can see you're not, you can come and see me in a play this afternoon in Barrie. I'm doing a show this evening. So
when does it start?
The play, we're the last batch, so we're about 7:30.
What time is it just now?
It is 1:00. You can time.
6 hours.
6-hour flight.
Ah.
Yeah, you just make it.
Yeah. Probably miss it and have to come back home.
Uh,
You were great.
so yeah.
Cool. Promo.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristen. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin, and a guest, as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Zalagis, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into Beta Canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bev. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Fly reaction show, script readings, and enjoy our special patron-only shows of It's Green and Amy's Math Moments. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages. If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a star rating and the written review. That helps others to find the show.
So at this time, we would like to thank our executive producers who make this all possible. Special thanks to Mark White for our artwork and Joe Keegan for our show music.
Thank you for joining the Batleth battle, and until next time...
Jono, stop that immediately!
It would have made more sense if I did. Like that.
That's good.
Yeah, the listeners, listen to that in reverse. Oh, we're supposed to have theme music, aren't we? Now I've totally forgot about that. There we go. Let's do that.
There you go.